Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 104 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the #1 television review podcast in Canada. We're recording on Tuesday, October 31st, 2017.
Hi, I'm Tim, a sports shooter and father of 3, and I'm the owner and operator of Tim's Good T-shirts. They're quite good. I'm also the descendant of beer-drinking immigrants.
I'm Gavin, practitioner of the dark arts, member of the Thule Society, follower of the Black Sun, and all-around swell guy.
As always, my name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian, a competitive shooter, and a firearms instructor at Ragnarok Tactical. And I did not wear my Superman costume at work.
You totally should have. I mean, it's Halloween, guys. I mean, if the PM can get away with being Superman and using every opportunity as a photo op instead of doing real work, you should too. But for everyone listening, we'd love to hear your feedback about the show. So please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback and tell Andrew what kind of costume he should wear to work. Or you can email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Edited version of the show is available on iTunes and Stitcher. And leave us your 5-star iTunes reviews. We love those. And your hate mail.
Yeah. You can check out the podcast on Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast. We also need your help. To support the show, visit www.patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get the uncensored audio version of the show for just $1 per episode. And the more you pledge, the better the rewards are.
All right, let's do. What are we drinking? Gavin, we'll start with you.
I am drinking the blood of liberal non-believers this evening, or Apothic Dark Red Wine.
Tim, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking 40 Creek Copper Pot and reverse osmosis water.
Of course you are.
Yes.
I'm drinking Jameson. And let's get into the main topic. Tonight we're talking about the Quebec religious neutrality law. So this recently came into law in Quebec with a passing vote of 66-51 in the National Assembly, which is Quebec's provincial parliament.
So I guess that means there's 114 people in Quebec's parliament.
100 and 120 guys.
Okay.
But only like 2 or 3 actually show up.
So I'm surprised at the way that this passed, because this is Bill 62, the bill that we're going to be talking about for the next little bit, is supposed to make the government neutral towards various religious circumstances going on in or about Quebec government, people in government and people receiving government services. This bill was put forward by the Liberal Party in Quebec, and while it did pass, it met opposition from the Bloc Québécois as well as the NDP for 2 very different reasons. A number of Quebec politicians didn't feel that the bill went far enough and voted against it. This is the Bloc. And the NDP felt that it violates human rights, who also voted against it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say my feelings are kind of somewhere in between on those. In some ways, I feel it has gone too far, and yet in other ways, I feel it hasn't gone far enough.
Yeah, this is a weird one. The text of the bill can actually be found at asnat.qc.ca. That's the Assemblée Nationale for Quebec. And you're going to want to look at Bill C-62 or check in the show notes. And the actual title of the bill is An Act to Foster Adherence to State Religious Neutrality, and in particular to provide a framework for requests for accommodations on religious grounds in certain bodies. Which actually sounds a lot better than what most of the media is pushing, because they're calling it like the religious neutrality law. And they're saying how it's banning Muslim women from wearing full face veils, burqas and niqabs. which Muslims, burqas, and niqabs are not actually in the text of the bill.
No, but I guess
Good
I don't
chat,
know.
guys.
But it's not in the bill, but it's clearly they're not allowed because of the wording of the bill.
You're right. I mean, it's
okay. So the not allowed part,
saying it without saying it. I mean,
and first of all, I guess like the Bloc is just they must be like a nationalist party.
Yes,
I would say that the Bloc is an extremely Quebecois nationalist party.
Okay,
being that they're the ones that keep wanting to secede from the rest of Canada.
So wouldn't it make them more of a provincialist party until they secede, at which point then they would be a nationalist party?
Yeah, but it's the National Assembly of Quebec. They're already think they're a country.
Fair.
But Canada belongs to Quebec,
poorly funded country.
Our Prime Minister says that Canada belongs to Quebec, doesn't
it? Basically.
Yeah.
I guess that's why they got mad that we called poutine a Canadian food.
That's right, not strictly a Quebecois food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny to have them vote against a liberal bill, and for like the different reason than you would assume, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of agreeing with liberals for the wrong reasons, which I'm surprised it was the Liberal Party that put this forward, and I'm surprised it was the NDP that were not in favor of it, but not for the reasons that I expected.
Yeah, it's like when people start bashing Trump, and I say that I don't like Trump because he's too liberal.
Yeah.
It's exactly like that. So the bill started out in life and was subsequently amended, but the bill started out as being a guideline, or I guess a requirement for government employees in Quebec, provincial employees. So this would be anyone who worked for the government would have to do their job, which I think is where the first folly in the law was I understand that they were trying to make this religiously neutral, but I think the law should have just been, if you're going to work for the government, you may not wear a mask. And then
yeah, but for me, I think they could have covered this in two regulations where I'm fully on board with government employees not being allowed to show any sort of outward religious affiliation. I don't care what religion it is. They should not be affiliated with it when they are on the job, because our government is not religious. It takes no stance one way or the other. So if they had passed it that said people can't wear religious anything visibly, that would have meant, like no crosses, no stars of David, no, crescent moons, no flying spaghetti monsters, no nothing, right? Like the whole deal. That would have covered everything, and then it would have been across the board rather than singling out a particular religion without specifically stating the garment that you don't want them to wear. Or they could have just said, for safety reasons, unless it's a hazard, like, a face mask for, air quality or something, you can't cover your face. Rather than making it a religious thing.
I think that's the road that they should have gone down. And there is another bill that Quebec did not pass to ban all public servants from overt religious symbols. And I don't have the National Assembly bill number in front of me, but that was a failed motion that was recently in the National Assembly.
Yeah, which this kind of sprung
out. I find it interesting that failed when it was specifically banning all overt religious symbolism for government employees to wear while on the job. And the religious neutrality bill passed when, yes, they don't want people wearing face veils. That's what they're going after, and it's specifically targeted at burqas and niqabs, because what other persons wear face coverings as part of their religion? But the separation of church and state being enforced through a new bill, I kind of get where they're going with that. That sort of makes sense. Yeah. I just think that the bill itself was very poorly written.
Yeah, like I said, I agree where they went too far in some regards and not far enough in others. I would much have preferred to have actual religious neutrality in that you can't wear anything while on the job for the government. But I guess that probably didn't pass in Quebec because of the huge Catholic population not being allowed to wear crosses while working.
Yeah, but I guess what's strange, I think, is like Like there was an incident in Toronto in September where someone's kneecap was caught in some machinery, and this person was crushed and killed in like a Fiera Foods packaging or working plant. So like there's
Yeah.
reasons, but there's no like
Hmm.
there isn't often like machinery and stuff that could snag a loose garment like in government work. So
Yeah.
No, because
But I mean,
machinery is not typically used in government because that would require doing actual work.
yeah.
and it would
But
take skill.
any job that has any of that can easily make those requirements, and then that way, if you don't follow them, that's on you. You know, like you don't have a right to work somewhere.
So the piece that was added on, which is I think where the government has managed to get itself in hot water in Quebec, is the one of the ministers had an amendment to the bill that they proposed in the summertime that this would not just apply to government employees, but also to anyone receiving government services. Secular government thing, kind of like where they're going with this. We're going to not,
Yeah.
we're not going to have overtly religious things going on when you're receiving state services. But again,
Yeah, but
I think that the amendment was poorly worded, and it should have been, if you want, Gibbs, if you want to ride the bus or get welfare or go to CEGEP or get government daycare, wear a mask while you're getting those services. Because really, why would anyone be wearing a mask while you're getting those services? If you're receiving government services, you should be proving who you are, and the government should be keeping track of the services that you received.
yeah, and see,
At
and
the
that's
very
where I
least, it's
think,
a public safety concern.
yeah, and that's where I think they screwed it all up again. Whereas, like, they've basically singled it out and said, if you're a Muslim woman that wears one of these things, you are not allowed to have, government services, which I think is a huge violation of someone's chartered rights because that's a religious thing. And in theory, that could apply to people of other religions and all of that. Whereas if they had just made it for a safety concern, any face covering, religious or otherwise, so no ski masks, no, hoodies pulled over your face, no scarves, then it doesn't have anything to do
Right.
with religion, and it doesn't single out a particular, minority group and say, oh, well, you can't.
So the premier made statements to that effect. Philippe Collard, the premier of Quebec, said that I should see your face and you should see mine. That's his understanding of how the government should operate.
Yes.
The quote is, "We are just saying that for reasons linked to communication, identification, and safety, public services should be given and received with an open face." And I think that's exactly the statement they should have made, and they should have had, there shouldn't have been any commentary about the religious factor of it. They should have just gone with the public safety aspect and said, if you want Gibbs, then you can't wear a mask.
Yeah.
Well, what's odd is normally this is something like that. Like you could argue that the government really doesn't give a shit about making sure that there is value passed on to the person. So it's not like they're doing this so that my tax money isn't wasted and given to someone because they're not, proving that they are the person that they say they are on their identification or something like that, like by allowing their face to be covered. And it just really, it's kind of baffling.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other thing that Gavin started to bring up, I have a quote that I want to read from one of the CBC articles that we have in the show notes. It's a 21-year-old Montreal woman who wears a niqab. She says she would rather stay home than take it off to ride the bus. I want everyone to listen to this quote. I go to mall with my friends. I go out, I go to the library, so it will just make me stay home. I don't have a car. I don't have anybody to drive me around, so it will just block me from the rest of the world. The woman who's wearing a niqab says that having to take it off to go out in public and use government services will block her from the rest of the world. The person who covers her face says that having to uncover her face for government services will block her from the rest of the world. Thinking yet?
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one because, like, I mean, I personally do have problems with, the whole covering your face thing, even for religious purposes, and especially for religious purposes, because I think it's ridiculous and no religion should force you to do that. But at the same time, as somebody that believes that you should have the right to practice whatever ridiculous religion it is, so long as it doesn't infringe on anyone else, you know, being denied a public service because of that, like, I mean, especially like riding the bus, like, who cares? Like, you're paying $2 to ride the bus or whatever it is. So it's not like they're getting free stuff.
Yeah, it's
You know, how is that? Yeah. Like, the fact that that's even up for debate is ridiculous. Right? Yeah.
This is the fun dichotomy, though, Gavin, is she can practice whatever religion she wants in whatever way she wants in the privacy of her own home. No one is telling her she can't wear her face mask. The only thing that the Quebec government is saying that is, in order to receive government services, you have to show your face. So are they really violating any of her religious freedoms?
Yes,
they're not saying she can't practice her religion. They're not saying that she can't do what she wants in her own time.
Yeah, but they're only really.
There's a difference, though.
Like the two most extreme of her head coverings. There are other head coverings that
I don't disagree, but I think it's one of these slippery slope things that once this is in place could easily be amended to possibly include other things. And access to government services for all essential purposes is a right, because as a taxpayer, we're paying for that. We should have access to that regardless of what our religious or non-religious views are. You don't, and this is where I think they went too far with it, because, like, if they had just said that, oh, you can't work for government and wear those things, that's different, because you don't have a right to work for the government. You choose to do that. But as a citizen, you have a right to access public services. And I do agree that there are times when, you know, being able to confirm your identity is important and vital, and that should happen. But like I said, just riding the bus, like, if you're going to be denied potentially riding the bus because you wear one of these, when a guy can walk on with a ski mask and the bill doesn't cover that because it's not religious, that's ridiculous.
The bill actually does cover that. The bill is written in such a way that you can make the argument that large sunglasses obscure too much of your face and are in violation of the text of the law.
Yeah, but
I'm looking forward to seeing the court battles that come out over this, because the language in the bill is super, super open to interpretation.
But then it shouldn't have anything to do with religion, and it shouldn't be called the religious neutrality law at all. Right? Like,
well, so this is where the media is getting everything backwards.
Yeah.
It's not religious neutrality of the people that are receiving government services. It's the religious neutrality of the government. The government shouldn't be making special considerations for any religious group.
And I agree with that.
Which is laid out in the text of the law, but it's done in such an ass-backwards fashion.
Yeah, but there is some give and take. And I mean, you know, what's considered, you know, obscuring your, you know, what if somebody gets on wearing like a wedding veil or a funeral veil or something, you know, like, is that obscuring?
In the text of this law, I think it's entirely open to being charged for that, yes.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem with it. It's so vague, right? Like,
well, it's a government law. Of course it's vague.
Yeah.
But going back to that quote from that young woman, though, when she says, you know, that she goes out with her friends and she does this and that, I'm reminded of Shawshank Redemption. I think it was Red was saying, like, when he was talking about Brooks, he said, you know, for a while, these walls, they keep you in, but after a while, you come to rely on them.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's a whole other debate as to, you know, women being made or choosing to wear those garments, and, you know, whether they actually do choose to, or they feel that they do, and now that they're, you know, made to do it, they feel comfortable in it and feel sort of weird without it and all of that. But I guess a bunch of, you know, white men sitting around debating that is probably a little odd, but
okay, well, let's pivot to that a little bit, because I've got an article from BuzzFeed with a bunch of pictures of Montrealers protesting Bill C-62, and take a scroll through the BuzzFeed article and tell me who you see in the pictures. in all of the
Yeah,
pictures.
it's a bunch of
In
white people
every
with things in front of
single
their face.
picture. No, it's a bunch of white women
Well,
in
yeah.
every single picture.
Well, that's a lot of
These are
gender
girl-bodied
assumption
presenting people,
you did there, buddy.
with the exception of a bus driver. These are all white girl-bodied people.
There we go. Thank you.
This is Montreal protesting, is these are liberals that need to have a real job, that have time to go stand outside and put scarves over their faces. These are the people that are protesting Bill C-62. These people are a drain on society. They are not married. They are not having children. They're staying at home and raising cats and drinking wine and watching Netflix. And they're the ones that are protesting a law.
Whoa. Let's not say
Day of
things
the
we
week
can't take
would
back
not
about
impact
people that
them.
drink wine.
That's right. Pinky up there, Gavin. Fancy wine drinker.
Got to be classy.
It also, I find it interesting, not in the BuzzFeed article, but another one of the CBC articles, that many experts estimate that there are as many as 50 people in Quebec that cover their faces for religious purposes. I don't know if anybody that's listening has been to Montreal lately, but I would say that number is vastly underestimated by these so-called experts.
I would say that 50, even in a small town, is way too low.
Right. If this is the number that the CBC is quoting, and their so-called experts say that there are 50 women in Quebec that are affected by this law, why is this getting so much mainstream media coverage in the national media? If this only impacts 50 people.
Yeah, 50 people,
like,
forget it. We'll give them special accommodations or whatever, which is also a little stipulation of that you can apply for, which basically negates the whole thing.
Which little media narrative are we going with here? Is this affecting the freedom of choice of thousands of Quebec residents from covering their faces and receiving government services, or is this affecting less than 50 people?
Well, if it's affecting thousands, it's certainly affecting 50.
Yeah, that depends. Which number makes it better?
So-called estimate 50 people in the province. The estimate and the mainstream media are liars.
I drank a Molson 50 on Friday.
They're delicious.
But they're not.
That's not a thing.
They're hater-proof.
Yeah. If you lived in a small town, you get used to drinking 50.
Yeah. It's
in quart bottles.
It's when you don't want anyone to steal your beer.
So
all right,
it's true. I used to bring it to parties because I knew that no one else would have it.
Yeah. Did you cover your face though?
In the winter when it was cold, yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to another point. Ontario PC leader Patrick Brown makes the cuckiest statement of October 2017. He says that neutrality is not enough. If feds won't lead Canada and this racist law passes, Ontario must support a charter challenge. And for Mr. Brown, I would like to offer a complimentary ticket. For his very cucky statement.
Half ticket.
Yeah, only good for a one-way trip.
Yes.
So the reason that Mr. Honorable Brown had to say this was a National Post article that we have linked, where Justin Trudeau says it's not up to federal government to challenge Quebec Nakib ban.
Man, this whole article is like backwards day. Like,
so he's got to be like he's got to be really torn though. Between like signaling for the Muslims and signaling that for Quebec. Like it's just really probably one of his most difficult decisions he made after picking out his socks.
Well, I mean, you got to get a really cool pair every day.
It makes him uncomfortable. I have a quote from the shiniest of ponies. In Quebec and Canada, we are not necessarily used to seeing a woman with a veil. That makes us uncomfortable. We wonder why she is doing that. Is she required to do that? But if you want to prevent women from being forced to wear a veil, Maybe you don't want to be a society that forces women not to wear a veil.
I think, is he saying we're
If
not?
that was like,
Is he saying we're not used to?
so is he a he for she feminist or not?
Yeah.
Does he believe that women should be required to the veil or wear a veil, or shouldn't they?
I think it's
like, does
he's
he
saying that
think we
because-
live under a rock?
Yeah, but when he went to that mosque, he didn't see the women because they weren't on the same floor as him.
I thought
because
that's
they
the
have to
room
be
that
kept
he was
separate
allowed
in the
in.
mosque that he
Is
visited.
that what he's talking about? He didn't see the women with the veils.
No, but isn't that the room that he got put in? Didn't he have to wear one?
No, he had on
That's
the
pretty
the
good. I like
mandarin.
that.
Oh, he was assuming his gender is male that day.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I should like to know that as a he for she feminist, how he reconciles this. Like, either he's comfortable with women in certain cultures that have been brought into this country to be forced to wear a veil, or he's not. And I agree with that we shouldn't have laws to make people do these things, but we've managed to get ourselves into a predicament where we can't identify people, like we can't positively identify someone when they're receiving gibs from my government tax dollars. And I would like them to be positively identified and not pose a security risk to those around them also receiving gibs from my tax dollars.
Yeah.
So, as you know, everyone always says, "Oh, Tim's the most liberal. Oh, here comes liberal Tim." And as a liberal, I'm going to say, like, from the heart outwards, what's going on is we have a clash between diversity being our strength, but this diversity is not pro-feminism. So that's what's going on with my liberal brothers and sisters out there.
Right? Like, how do you reconcile that? Like, either you're a he for she feminist that believes that you shouldn't treat women differently, or you believe that people have the right to treat women differently.
Well, I think
You can't have both.
What we do
I guess
as liberals is at that point we just we point to our socks.
Yeah, they always make me smile.
Yep.
But I guess he's under the assumption that nobody is being forced to wear one and that they're all choosing to wear one. Because
well, that brings up an interesting story. Let's go to this one from the Toronto Sun. Quebec father charged with, quotes, honor-based violence over teen daughter's hijab.
This isn't related
From
at all.
October 27th
completely unrelated
of this year in Gatineau, Quebec. A Quebec man has been charged with
allegedly
assaulting his teenage daughter for a year in what police are calling, quotes, honor-based violence. Gatineau police said that in their investigation suggests the level of violence escalated once the man discovered the girl was removing her job when she was away from the family home. They've not released the man's name to protect the alleged victim's identity. So we have a case in Quebec where a member of the patriarchy, in the most literal definition of the word, is beating one of his daughters because she's removing her job when she's in public, away from the family home.
So she's a.
I should like to know how the Liberals reconcile this.
Yeah.
Is it her choice to remove her job? Is the honor-based violence now acceptable in Quebec? You can't have both. Also, you need to mute your phone notifications.
Done, sir.
Screw you guys.
It's a bunch
Yeah.
of outraged listeners because we really changed gears when we went from niqab story to niqab story. So
Yeah.
sorry.
No, hijab to niqab.
Sorry.
Or no, niqab to hijab. In any event.
Yes.
I feel like we should do that, like, you know, the finger bones connected to the wrist bone song, but like with the niqab and the hijab and the whatever else. Be kind of festive.
The
for
cultural
Halloween.
supremacy is connected to the feminism. The feminism is connected to the face veil.
Yeah,
The face veil is connected to you catch a beating if you take it off.
sounds about right.
So that's why they don't ride the bus.
Oosh.
I do like the message from the Gatineau police, though. The what's this fellow's name? He's some sergeant with the Gatineau police, says that the victims of these types of crime are often isolated, and it can be very difficult for them to come forward. And for the ones that do, we want them to know that we'll listen to them, but they will receive support during the legal process. So I think it's good that the police are making these statements and trying to make the public aware that in this country, or at least in the province of Quebec, that women have choices as to how they choose to dress themselves and how they appear in public or not appear in public. So if you catch a beating because you're not doing what the patriarchy tells you to do, that you can go to the police and they'll remove you from that situation, because this is now in the custody of the state pending police investigation and hopefully a trial for her father.
Yeah, and hopefully a beating for her father. Several. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I'm not against a little, disciplining of your children, but like, you don't beat your kids because they take off a friggin' headscarf, like that's
Right, but I mean, like, there's a difference between spanking your child because they're misbehaving and beating your teenage daughter because she's removing her headscarf.
Yeah, that guy needs to get checked out of a helicopter or his name released to the public so people can, publicly ostracize him.
I would be very okay with that.
That's probably far more effective than this stupid law that they've put in place.
All right. You guys have anything else on this?
No.
Not really. It's just surprising that it's backwards day. Like, left has become right and right has become left. And I don't know what to think, and in some ways they've gone too far. In other ways, they haven't gone nearly far enough. And I don't know. No wonder Trudeau's all confused and doesn't know what to say or support.
All right, Tim, why don't you tell us about the next one?
This is the fun place.
Yes.
Sorry, my browser's taking a long time to load here. Gavin, why don't you tell us about the next one? Oh, here it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
We need your help to support the show.
Yes. Ralph Goodale. Okay.
No, but he's coming up later.
That's a boner killer right there.
Basically, a Montreal man was given a $149 ticket for singing while driving. He said his passionate rendition of the cheesy 1990s pop hit has netted him $149 fine. So on September 27th, Tawafik Moala was on his way to buy a bottle of water. Okay. And he was singing along to CNC Music Factory's 1990 song, "It's Gonna Make You Sweat." Everybody dance now. And the police, over the singing, he heard a police siren, and he thought they were going to pass. So when then over the speaker, they directed them to pull over to the right side, and he stopped. 4 police officers came out, 2 on each side of his car, and they checked the inside of the car, and they asked him if he screamed, and he said, "No, I was just singing." And then the police checked his license and registration and came back with a $149 ticket for screaming in public. It's because in Montreal, there's a bylaw that to cause disorder by screaming violates peace and tranquility and can be punishable by a fine of $50 to $1,000 for the first offense and $100 to $2,000 for subsequent infractions. So
that's ridiculous.
It's the thing that is missing is to cause disorder by screaming.
Yeah.
So the police officers, in my opinion, should have to prove that he caused disorder.
Well, yeah, like if he screamed out fire and people started panicking, like. But
I think this is pretty good that the Gestapo in Quebec are now going to prevent you from singing in your car. That's
or maybe they just really don't like
good.
CNC Music Factory.
Could be.
I don't know. The song's kind of catchy. I'll put it in when I do the edit.
But the last I heard, like only 4% of Montreal police officers bother to qualify for their handgun, yearly. So the fact that these people are driving around handing out $149 tickets for people singing in their own vehicle, doesn't really strike me as a.
But are they not going to do their handgun because if you discharge a handgun in public, that could net you a fine? I mean, because if that doesn't cause, disorder
by screaming,
well,
well, I don't. Let's just say from the news over the past several years, if there's ever a shooting and run, like if police ever pull out their guns and start shooting in Montreal, no one is safe.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the next one. We've got Ontario Hydro. There's a report that's come out from the Auditor General blasting Kathleen Wynne's Fair Hydro plan. That's the 25% reduction in hydro bills that everyone can expect to see in Ontario in the coming months. The Auditor General has found that the Wynne government is breaking accounting rules to hide the extra costs of this pricing scheme. So the way that this is broken down in the Auditor General's report, as always, there are links in the show notes to all the articles, and hopefully I can find a copy of the actual report so we get source material. But listening to the press conference that the Auditor General gave, basic principles of accounting are being broken by the Ontario Liberal Party. Ontario Power Generation is being used to offset the costs of the discount, and a new entity called the Ontario Power Generation Trust has been set up to pay back the cost of what is effectively a loan over the next 30 years. So this is allowing Ontario to realize a one-time savings to balance their books for the end of this fiscal year, allowing the Ontario Liberals to go into a balanced budget for their next election.
Well, I mean, they did say that it would balance itself. This is the way they do it.
Apparently this is what they're doing. So in order to balance the budget in Ontario, they've managed to disguise $21 billion in debt into the OPG Trust, which is going to accrue $4 billion in interest over the next 30 years. So I hope everybody's on off on their hydro now, because your grandkids are going to be paying for the difference.
Actually, you know what's going to make up, then they're going to pay for that is the tax on tax that you paid when you bought your LED light bulbs.
It's entirely possible. So the price of hydroelectricity in Ontario has approximately doubled in the past 10 years as a result of green energy initiatives like my LED light bulbs and wind turbines and the gas plant scandal and various other factors, but the majority of it has been green energy.
Yeah,
and
because they didn't listen to their own experts, and they cost the programs. Yeah.
To be fair, though, when your experts don't have any sort of real info, would you really listen to them? Like, are these the same experts that said there's 50 people affected by this? And
yeah.
So this is criticism from both the progressive conservatives and the NDP energy critics. Everything from calling the plan a ploy to hide actual cost, calling it deceitful, dishonest. And I'd really like somebody to go so far as to call them actual liars. Although NDP MP Peter Tabuns, he had a pretty good comment in the House. He compared this to Enron style accounting. So hopefully that hurt the Liberals a little bit.
Sadly, I don't think it will, because nobody cares except for the people on this panel and the few people that listen to us. Luckily, that number is growing every day. But
it is growing every day.
Our tens of listeners rely on our insightful and witty commentary of current events.
Yeah. So it's really. It's a good thing that it's in the news, or it's there for people who choose to educate themselves and find out what's going on. But they're set up a situation so that when the Liberals are up for re-election in 2019, it 2019? 2018. I think it's 2018. But anyway, that is when we will get the majority of we got a small drop in hydro rates this year, and we're going to get they're going to drop further next year, and they're hiding the debt. So they're going to be able to say that they're going to hide some debt they created because OPG is going to be holding the bag, at a guaranteed interest rate. And consumers are, and we're going to have the lowest hydro rates we've had for probably 6 or 7 years.
5 years, easy.
Okay, yeah. So as we roll up to the election in June 2018. But then what's going to happen is from 2018 to 2021, there's a fair hydro plan that's going to hold the cost increase of hydro to equal to inflation rates from 2018 to 2021. But then they're all going to come back, and we're going to have to pay that interest. So tough times ahead, Ontario. There's just Ontario and hydro are just miles and miles and miles of bad road. There's the Fraser Institute has said that since 2008 or in the past 10 years, that hydro costs in Ontario have cost the province 75,000 manufacturing jobs. So, and the fact that we basically sold debt to Ontario Power Generation, the company that owns the parking garage at Princess Margaret Hospital, and charged my buddy Scott about $1,000 to park during his radiation treatments. It's just I'm getting.
How dare he park his car there, though? I mean, seriously,
I'm getting sick of hearing about OPG. Really. But.
Yeah, we need to just get rid of that.
So I don't have a patriotic limerick, Tim, but I do have a poem that I could share with you. Roses are red, violets are blue. Taxation is theft, and inflation is too.
I like it.
Yeah. It's it rhymes and it's true.
Tim's comment about inflation made me think of that, because the rising cost in hydro being tied to inflation it's just a hidden tax on your money.
I guess we should say artificially tied to inflation.
Right, but in any event, the actual process of inflation and central banking is all a scheme perpetuated by the globalists.
So after 2020,
nothing else for this one.
After 2022, you can expect your hydro bills to go up 7 to 8% a year.
Yeah, until they do this all over again.
Tying it to inflation. Well, no, and then it'll be paid off, and hopefully, it'll be the next government's problem, which I think is
they'll have to do it again.
Is the actual plan here. Well, I don't think they're planning on doing it again, or at least they're if they're planning on doing it again, it'll be another Liberal leader that has to do it. They'll have to come up with a new scheme.
Well, yeah, so once they pay it off
to someone else.
Yeah, once they've paid it all off, and then people start complaining about their hydro being so high again, they'll start cutting the rates, incur more debt, and then have to hide it again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it worked. It's working now, so why won't it work 10 years from now when they have to do it again?
Okay. And the one thing I quickly touched on was the 2009 Green Energy Act, where Auditor General Jim McCarter warned the Liberals that they were going to create a lot of debt and or some increased cost. And they ignored his advice, and they went on to set the subsidies that they were going to pay wind and solar developers with their FIT programs. And if they had have listened to him, he could have saved the public, or the Liberals could have saved the public $4.4 billion over 20 years. But
the whole green energy thing was a fucking useless mess. But
well, I knew people in the solar industry, the solar business, when that was going on, and literally if you had $75,000 to invest into something, they could guarantee you 14% returns for I think 25 years.
It was crazy. Yeah, I mean they were guaranteeing above market rates for any green energy person, and they get paid out first.
Yeah.
But the
If there's a
problem
program
is
like that, yeah. If
our
it's
other plants can't run at less than 100% capacity.
Yeah.
So they're running full blast. We've got all these green energy guys that are getting paid out above market rate. We're now producing too much electricity, which we then have to sell at a loss to like New York to dump through their grid. So we're paying over market rates and then losing money when we sell it to other people. Like, what did they think was going to happen?
And we really, every time we do that, like, it's got to be a huge pain in the ass to New York, like, because it's just like, of course, they like the money, but still, imagine you're sitting there, and it's kind of like if you had like a deadbeat cousin. He's like, "Oh man, could you like buy my stereo for like a month? Because like I'm really hungry."
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah, like it's ridiculous. Like, we'd be better off if we just ditch the green energy and use the energy we're already producing anyways that we can't not produce. Like, it's not like we're running cleaner because we've got green energy coming in. We're still producing 100% capacity of our not green energy plants because we can't shut them down.
yeah.
We may as well just use that and have cheaper rates and then all have more
Man, why
money.
would you want to not run coal and natural gas plants? They're amazing. I know this because the Liberals got taken to court over it, and they're still running.
Yeah. Like, we haven't shut any of them down. Like, if we're going to switch it out totally, let's do that. I'm all for a renewable energy resource, and not because it's greener, but just because it makes sense.
Yeah, like
In more than one reason. But
yeah, I had an uncle who worked on some of those coal plants, and he was saying like when they put the new scrubbers in, like those things were damn clean.
yeah,
Everyone thinks we're going to go back to like 1870s London.
yeah.
I could only hope.
But like, I'm all for wind and solar and all that, like, because we're not going to run out of that stuff. Like, eventually we are going to run out of coal, so let's switch them over.
Wow.
But like, let's get rid. I mean,
But-
not anytime soon. But
Okay, without going all like David Suzuki tinfoil hat on this, the way that they generate wind power in Ontario is not environmentally friendly. The turbines are being produced in other countries and require as much energy as they're going to produce in their own lifetime. We're just offsetting the pollution to China where they're being manufactured.
well, yeah, that and the whole like eminent domain and forcing farmers to put them up on their fields and stuff like that, I don't agree with. But like the concept,
Yeah, there's a bunch of other problems with wind.
The
concept of green
wind.
energy is great, but
Yeah.
the concept of government is pretty good too. And look at the execution.
Yeah,
Like, to be fair, if you're going to have pollution, it should be in the country with the smaller population density. So I guess it's just our white privilege.
More than likely. Yeah, we got time. Do you guys want to pick something off the bottom of the stack? Tim did say Goodall. I do have a Goodall story.
I don't know Goodall.
And
I don't even know who the
I
man
mean,
is.
everybody loves a Goodall story.
It's a lot of stories.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff in the bottom of the stack, but I do have a Goodall story in there to do with the border security thing.
What about this? Everything is white supremacy. How Legos help build a classroom lesson on white privilege.
Yeah, we could probably do that. I could have sworn I had a Goodall story.
Oh, geez, we should really touch on feds pay $31 million to 3 men unjustly imprisoned in Syria.
Yeah, that's probably a good one to talk about.
Because, like, groping, Toronto cop groping drunk women is Toronto cop groping drunk women. So.
I found the Goodall story. Okay, let me move that one up to the bottom of the show, and then we'll grab one of those other ones. Okay, it's under the heading news after the Ontario Hydro stuff.
Ooh, a wary eye. Sounds like a job for Liberal Tim.
All right, so coming to us from CBC, keep a wary eye on U.S. travel visas, Goodale tells American counterpart. Ralph Goodale says some migrants are obtaining U.S. travel visas for the sole purpose of coming to Canada. No fucking kidding, Ralph.
I don't even see why they're bothering to go through all that trouble when they could just walk across the border and get a free bottle of water and a place to stay. I mean, getting a travel visa means you have to legally cross the border and file a bunch of work and probably pay some people and have a job.
Well, ideally, you would cross into Canada and Manitoba in February. You would lose your fingers, play the pity card, get citizenship immediately, and just sign right up for disability.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even need to lose all your fingers, just like one or two.
Yeah.
Like if you lose like the pinky finger and ring finger off your non-dominant hand, like that's not going to stop you from doing anything.
I got some advice for him. Where's your toque, eh?
So we've touched on this before. This is from a summit, with a G7 immigration summit that Goodale was party to. And we've talked about this before with the first safe country stuff. So this is Goodall telling the Americans that we need to take joint steps on illegal immigration because a number of U.S. consulates and border services are being misused for people to enter the U.S. who have no intention of staying in the U.S. and then entering into Canada.
Shit, yeah, I did a limerick about this.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. It's just, I guess Goodall's a listener, and he's talking to the Americans now about what we've already said, that if you're going to have a border, you need to enforce that border.
Yeah, but he's doing it in the wrong way.
But that's what we say.
Like, I could give a shit if illegal immigrants enter into the U.S. because I don't live in the U.S.
That's a
what
job
I need Goodale to do is to enforce our borders.
Yeah, get those 4 Montreal cops who busted the guy for singing. Get them down the border. Get them doing something useful.
Yeah, get them on the Vermont border and like.
The article specifically talks about the thousands of Haitian migrants that entered Quebec illegally during the border crossings in the summertime after the U.S. announced the end of the protective status for Haitians.
Yeah, how is that a U.S.
7
problem?
years after the earthquake. Sorry, say again?
Like, how is that a U.S.? That's our border problem. That has nothing to like. The U.S. doesn't care about people leaving the U.S. to go somewhere else. Like the border, if they see you trying to cross the border from like Arizona into Mexico, they're not going to stop you on the U.S. side. They're going to tell you to go. It's the Mexicans that are supposed to stop you. Just like, we can't expect the U.S. to enforce our border. We need to enforce our own borders, and then they can enforce theirs.
I agree with that. We do need to enforce our borders, and I'm glad that the public safety minister is finally catching on to this fact. But to the point of his comments at the G7 summit, the Americans need to stop issuing travel documents to people who don't plan to actually stay in America. This would eliminate one step in the process where they're entering Canada illegally. So if you're at a problem embassy, like the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria, where for some reason these visas keep being given out and people keep emigrating to the U.S. from Nigeria to illegally enter Canada, maybe the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria needs to reconsider giving out U.S. travel visas.
I don't disagree with you, and they totally should, but at the same time, like, why the hell are we letting them come in from the U.S. into Canada?
You're right. That is still a problem that we have. The border enforcement kind of needs to be stopped.
A more vital part in that whole thing. Like, just because someone has papers that allows them to go from wherever they're from into the U.S. doesn't mean they're allowed in Canada.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, but like, you can't really. You could ask the US to do that, but really, what you got to do is streamline the thing, get them the hell out of our country. Like, it's just,
or stop them from getting into Gavin's point.
Yeah.
Like, if they stay in the U.S., then that's a U.S. problem. And I'm not saying that's not a problem, but that's for the U.S. to deal with. Like, great, they got papers, even though they shouldn't, to go into the U.S. Why the hell are we letting them into our country? Like, let the U.S. deal with it if it's a U.S. problem. Like, we have other things to worry about up here. We need to focus on our country. They need to focus on their country, and every country needs to focus on their own damn country. Like, forget everyone else.
Well, yeah, like if you were to say, "Oh, I'm going to go to this country and then I'm just going to slide over into this other country and I'm just going to live off of Nigeria's welfare state," everyone within earshot would call you an asshole for doing that.
Yeah.
But as soon as you say like, "Oh, we got to stop them from coming in here illegally," then probably a racist.
No, we say it's a regular migration now.
Hitler?
I know so because Superman said so.
Yeah.
A Harper Hitler.
No. The shiniest of ponies said that they had to curb irregular migration.
I believe he's going by Clark Kent now.
Reach inside your actor's
Very confused about his choice of how he dresses for Parliament. All right. Do you guys have anything else? Because if you don't, I want to do the brewery one.
Go for it.
All right. All right, I moved it up to the news section as well.
Oh, this one, yeah.
All right, from the Vernon Morning Star, Kelowna Brewery attacked by hate groups.
Oh,
where's
no.
my button? Hate groups. That's the wrong button.
That was interesting.
Hate groups. Yeah, I pushed the wrong option. So there's a brewery in BC that I won't be purchasing any beer from because the free market is about to solve the problem. So this Kelowna brewery says that it's under attack from alleged hate groups, and it's taken down its Facebook page and reported the actions of the RCMP due to the intense cyberbullying it's received from people connected to alt-right militia groups. Scary language. And that's just the first paragraph. So the owner of this brewery put up a flag in their brewery, which I fully support them doing. If they want to put up a flag in their brewery and they want to have a brewery, I'm all for them doing this. I'm also all for the free market and capitalism correcting a problem when fucking communists do stupid shit and put it on the internet. You're going to hang an anti-fascist flag in your brewery. Prepare for people to not patronize your brewery. Pretty fucking straightforward.
And if you look,
apparently they put this up and they received something on the order of 8,000 views in the course of a day or a couple hours. Basically being told that they were, communists and people weren't going to patronize their brewery. The owner of this brewery says that he put up the flag as his form of a quiet protest, and he stands by his protest, but he's also fearful for his 2 young children and his family. There's a lot of scary things about this. Just because I posted my politics, what I believe, it was latched upon and maybe misunderstood by these guys, but they are extremists. We look at this stuff and we think it's an American problem, but it's happening here too. Like a cuck alert. Because I wonder what it's like for this guy to watch somebody else boning his wife while he's raising their children. If you're going to put up communist propaganda in your brewery, that's your business, but be prepared for people with money, i.e. not communists, to not support your brewery and tell you you're a douchebag for doing it.
And first of all, if you look at the picture of this guy, like, did he make the brackets for that TV stand?
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty ghetto.
Yeah. Like, come on, man. Have some pride.
Oh, we lost Gavin.
Oh, no.
We'll wait for Gavin to come back.
Yeah, I fully agree. Like, it's if this guy is pro Antifa, then he's no friend of mine. Like, if you can't see what Antifa has been doing for the past 2 years in North America.
the last 60 years in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently this is his way of supporting peace, is by putting up anti-fascist flags in his brewery. I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Yep.
But yeah.
Did you want to go on to the stolen boat from No Name Lake?
Yeah, sure. Let's
Because
let's
the only
do
other
that
story
one.
I'm really familiar with is the Toronto cop accused of groping drunk women, and it's just not a happy story.
Okay, well, we won't do it if it's not a happy story. Let's yeah. This is under the Big Brother section in the bottom of the deck, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm gonna move it up. Gavin, are you back?
I'm back. Apparently my
All right.
internet
Did you
dropped
have?
out.
Oh, lame. Did you have any other comments for the anti-fascist?
You're just as bad as fascists?
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go into another article then. We've got one from the National Post. The case of the stolen boat from No Name Lake and other items Canada's military, quotes, lost last year. During the 2015-16 financial year, military folks lost only one cell phone, but well over 4,500 articles of clothing.
That's actually pretty good considering how many people. Only one cell phone?
Yeah, so I'd like to point out to the author, Miss Marie Danielle Smith, that I don't think you understand how accounting works. Things get lost, and then they get written off. The military is thousands of people. When a pair of pants is ripped in a field exercise, it's returned to the supply and then written off. It's not that they just lost 4,500 pairs of pants.
But it's also
or that could have been a wicked barracks party.
Yeah, they're not exactly at a desk job either. You know, they're out there doing like army shit.
Yeah, the part of the problem with this story is that like it doesn't have any, like it doesn't designate a difference between like wear and tear, written off, and actually lost. This is
okay.
Just basically
So
everything.
Here's a fun thing: is if you're issued something, if you're a member of the military and you're issued something, you're given a piece of the Queen's property, and you fail to turn it back in, or you turn it back in a different state than which it was issued, you have to fill out a form. There's a fucking form for everything. And if you don't turn stuff back in, generally you're going to get to pay for it. That's your reward for losing the Queen's property, is reimbursing the Crown. Don't lose shit. That being said, there's stuff that's going to be wear and tear or broken or is actually lost because small pieces, or sometimes they fall apart, or sometimes things fall off of vehicles that are in poor states of repair.
They were blowing too hard on those two flutes.
That's right. They did lose some interesting and exciting things. So there's almost 10,000 articles of clothing, weapons, camping equipment, etc., that were lost. And when they say weapons, I mean we could be talking about things like firing pin, retaining pins out of a C7, because that is a thing that troops lose. There are a couple of cents to get a new one put in, but you have to fill out a loss report because technically it's the Queen's property.
Yeah.
Lose other things, or things become no longer serviceable, like gas burner stoves, or saw chains, or fireman coat, or snowshoes, or machetes, or a single iPod.
Helicopters.
I've never seen them lose a helicopter.
Yeah, but eventually they become unserviceable.
That's true. Then they sell them off for, well, things.
Yeah.
So overall, the things that were lost total up to $1 million. No, $3 million. $3 million of stuff. Yeah. The Defense Department wrote off $3 million of non-recoverable losses due to accidental loss, destruction, or damage. Which, when you consider how much equipment is issued out to individual soldiers, plus the equipment that's kept on the company or regimental level, $3 million worth of stuff for the Army to go through in a year. Is that big of a deal?
Yeah.
Like that is a reasonable amount of their budget to write off because of torn pants and lost tent pegs and camp stoves that no longer stove.
Yeah, I mean, when you add it all up, some of it sounds kind of ridiculous, and there are a few items in there that are like, why the fuck is this even listed? But yeah,
Because
overall,
everything gets counted.
well, yeah, but like there's certain
Literally,
things
there are
like,
people who are employed to count things.
yeah, but like some of this stuff is like, why the hell is this like an issued piece of equipment? But that aside, when you look at how many people are in the forces and how much money there is sitting there as a whole, when you add up like every, nut and bolt and vehicle, it's peanuts. As the liberals like to say, it's a drop in the bucket.
It is a drop in the bucket. What I'd really like to point out is the dollar value associated with tent pegs. Apparently, a tent peg is worth $34.
They are getting screwed. I would be happy to sell them $15 tent pegs.
Yeah, but that's a different issue. That's like a procurement issue where someone screwed up. But like on the whole, it's not a lot of money. Like I'm really against government waste, but like if our army is out there doing training and shit like that, and they lose like $3 million worth of stuff like over the course of
it's nothing
a year, that's just the cost of doing it. Like I think our guys, deserve that. Like
But when they're paying $34 or whatever for a single tent peg,
well, yeah,
they're getting hosed.
Yeah, they are getting.
But that's probably because it's some stupid government.
Yeah, but
procurement contract that.
Not hosed in like the Canadian government giving the CBC $1 billion a year kind of hosed.
No. But yeah, that's
so
some guy got the tent peg contract and he's been raking in the dough ever since.
He's like machining them on a freaking mill.
The tent peg baron of Petawawa
is. I gotta get these done for the military. The buys are counting on me.
Jesus. Yeah, the tent peg thing is kind of ridiculous. I don't know what kind of tent pin this is. It says like tent pin is the description of the item, but apparently the Army lost 1,000 of them, and the value of that's like 36 grand, which $34 a tent pin seems kind of an expensive tent peg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some really nice aluminum ones, and they're a couple of bucks a piece, but
but that's right.
You go buy a set for less than $34.
Yeah, if you're going, you're going to lose some tent pins. But like the problem is like we shouldn't be spending that much per tent pin, and then we shouldn't worry about them that they're fucking driving them into the ground and bending them or breaking them or losing them. But
so, do either of you care to guess what the Canadian Forces budget is annually?
Oh God, probably somewhere in the billions.
Ralph Goodale.
I will accept Ralph Goodale, or 18.6 billion Ralph Goodales.
Oh.
The fiscal budget for 2016 was $18.5 billion. So they lost $3 million worth of stuff. So their writing off as a loss is less than 2% of their entire budget. I feel like this is a very acceptable loss rate for our military for equipment.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, now that I know that they're getting hosed on tent pegs, I'd like to know what else they're getting hosed on. But as a result, what they are writing off every year is nothing compared to what their actual budget is.
Right. I feel like a sub 2% write-off rate on non-serviceable equipment is a very reasonable rate. Yeah. We write off easily that much stuff out of our business.
Yeah.
I bet you Canadians spend more than $3 million a year on dragon dildos.
I should certainly
probably.
hope not.
Probably, but I would think that like most of those are concentrated like
it's a GTA kind of a problem.
Yeah, but I would even say like slightly east of the GTA.
Possibly.
I mean, if I had to like be super specific.
No, I would imagine the majority of them are concentrated in Don Valley West.
Potentially.
You know, the home of the Ontario Liberal Party leader.
Yeah, those are our real brave boys.
All right.
Those things are scary.
I got what do you say
Anyway,
to that?
no, like, yeah, to our Canadian military, from me, I don't care that you lost $3 million worth of shit. You guys be out there being crazy bastards whenever we need you. So hats off to you.
But if you feel bad about it, like, give us a helicopter or let us at least like fast rope out of one. Just saying.
Give me some good boots, boys.
Yeah, Timmy needs some boots.
I'll take snowshoes also.
Preferably winter boots.
Not too keen on the flutes.
Sorry, don't mind me. I'm just having my math skills questioned on YouTube. And I want to thank the YouTube commentators, but I've had a lot of whiskey. Oh, we're always live. I've had a lot of whiskey, and the YouTube math says it's 0.015% of the D&D budget, which is entirely possible. So if someone wants to go take 18.5 billion and 3 million and tell me what it actually works out to, if I did that wrong and it's not 1.6 and it's actually 0.015 or 0.016, whatever, if somebody wants to let me know, I will disavow my bad mathematics due to the Jameson I've been consuming.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post.
No, I won't. If my math is wrong, whatever. We do this for entertainment.
It's an insignificant number, possibly an even less significant number.
That's right.
What do you want? Right, we're alcoholics.
No, that's untrue. I don't go to meetings.
Well, I'm not once about drinking, anyways.
I think that's probably good for this week. Let's wrap this up. We'll
the bone is not alone.
Yes.
Oh yeah, why don't you tell us about that, Tim, and maybe put it in the show notes?
Yeah, I should.
As Tim is the official
outreacher,
We the Cancer Charity People Now spokesperson.
Mm-hmm.
There's some more people that need your help.
Yes. Firstly, some of our listeners, someone listening right now, thanks Don, is still out there collecting money for the 2017 Fuck Cancer Initiative. You get that to me, I'll pass it right along to my buddy Scott, who's still paying $200 for blood tests whenever he gets them done. And also
still paying off that $1,000 parking bill.
Yeah, geez. But what we're doing is there's another initiative that's been going on another podcast. Can we say their name, or do you just want to do a big beep here?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, say who's running it.
We don't hate the guys at Slamfire that much.
I know. I'm just kidding. There's some friendly rivalry.
I mean, we maybe hate Trevor, but like the podcast as a whole.
Trevor's podcast?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Which, by the way, Trevor, happy birthday. I hear you like clowns a lot, so we'll be sure to send you some.
Mm-hmm. So the guys at Slamfire Radio are picking up and running with an initiative. I'm not sure if they created it or not, but there's a campaign going on right now called The Bone Is Not Alone, and this is the Bone Is Not Alone fundraiser. So I'm just going to read quickly from the website. Slamfire Radio is holding a fundraiser called Bone Is Not Alone in support of a listener and firearms advocate, Richard Bone. Richard is currently battling cancer. We want to give back to him for all of his support of firearms owners. So they have a fundraiser going, and they're raffling off an NEA BCL 102, which was donated to them by SFRC, the ammo source. They're also raffling off Smith & Wesson SD9, donated by the Calgary Shooting Center, and a Sabertooth SKS chassis in flat dark earth, donated by Matador Arms. So it looks like they're doing it first, second, third prizes, but tickets are $5 each, or $20 will get you 5. The EMTs can be taken at slamfireradio@gmail.com, and the raffle ends November 9th. So head on over to slamfireradio.com/bone-not-alone-fundraiser and get some tickets on there and some good guns. There's a lot of nice Canadian hardware in that raffle.
Yeah. Well, you're the one that won the Saber-tooth chassis at the podcast shoot, aren't you?
Yes, fine piece of equipment.
We're gonna need to get you to drop an SKS into that soon.
I don't want to drop my SKS into it because my SKS has a POSP side mount, but I am going to buy another SKS and put it into that chassis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for like the $200, I mean, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. But I did take it out and admire it, and it's a quite a well done and finished piece of hardware.
Yeah, they make some phenomenal stuff. I mean, Andrew and I tested their AR brake the one time, and I've got the brake on my VZ, and I just put one on my JR carbine as well. And
oh yeah, did I was
yeah.
it on there when I shot that?
Yeah. They make some sexy stuff.
Okay. Also, you can go to The Bone Is Not Alone. If you Google The Bone Is Not Alone, then it'll come up, and there'll be a myshopify.com where you can go there to support the Bone Is Not Alone.
Just make sure that that's what you put, because otherwise, some of those words.
Typing is hard. Go to the show notes. Click the link. I've done the hard work already.
You may get some weird websites.
You might see somebody else doing hard work. Yeah.
If you just Google bone and alone, it may not work out good for you. I mean, it might. I don't know. Whatever you do in your own time is your own business.
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap this up. Gavin, where can everybody find you on the internet?
When I am not worshiping the Dark Lord, you can find me on Instagram at urbex_GTA.
Ralph Goodale?
Yes. Actually, yes. Our Lord and Savior.
Dark Lord and Savior.
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever.
Tim, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at timsgoodtshirts.ca or facebook.com/timsgoodtshirts. They're quite good.
You can find the show at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com or on Facebook and Instagram at Canadian Patriot Podcast. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. I understand that he had a super duper Halloween costume due to his trick-or-treating schedule. For all of our listeners out there in podcasts, I'd like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.